Good morning, everyone. My name is Heather Veale. I'm a senior at Oakland Mills High School, and I'm very excited to say that I'm graduating in only a couple of weeks. I've attended Glenmar since my early childhood, and many of you know me as DC's daughter. Hopefully, you like me anyway. But honestly, I do hope that my church involvement through groups like YOM has helped me give a name of my own. I'd like to take a moment to give a shout out to my own wonderful mother and wish all the others a very happy Mother's Day. As you might be able to guess, me being a senior and all, I'm very excited for the next stage of my life. Reflecting on the past year, I'm realizing that it has been mostly me finishing up my high school chapter. I found that I just kept prefacing events with my last. I had my last soccer season, my last marching band event, my last homecoming, my last spring YOM trip, and just 3 days ago, my last AP test. And now, my last sermon for Youth Sunday. It is starting to really hit me that I'm finishing up my time at high school, and with all of these endings, I've started to focus on preparation. The flip side to my senior year has been applying for colleges, for scholarships, and more scholarships. And I needed to figure out what college I would attend, which dorm I'd want to room in, who my roommate would be. I've started making lists of things I need to bring, people I need to talk to, ways to connect to a Christian group on campus. I've started preparing myself for a new phase in my life. We as Christians are supposed to prepare ourselves to spread God's message. It is really the biggest job we have as followers of Christ. In 1 Peter it says, "But in your hearts set apart Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks, to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect." It is our calling to talk about our relationship with God to others. Yet this is probably one of the biggest struggles that we have. At least I know it is for me. In a community of believers, there is so much support and acceptance about my faith. But once I'm thrown into the world, I flounder around terrified and unsure of what to do. So what are the reasons behind this? Why do people feel reluctant when it comes to answering questions about their faith? Coming from a high school student, there's an answer that teenagers feel every day. And I've heard from some respected adults that it is the same for them. We are afraid of what people will think. I'll be labeled as the Christian person. People will assume I'm straight edge or conservative. The biggest one that I've had to deal with is that people will lose respect for me. I felt pressure to keep my faith hidden. I didn't want people to make fun of me or to laugh at me. Now, I know that it is not always this extreme, but there does seem to be a constant discomfort when asked about your faith in a situation where others do not share the same. Being afraid of rejection is common, and yes, it does feel like being judged unfairly is an undeserved punishment. This is where I take comfort from a mission trip expression. We are told to ask ourselves whose needs are being met. What it comes down to is that we are not placed on this earth to accomplish our own goals or ideas. To quote the Blues Brothers, we are on a mission from God. Jesus told us, "You did not choose me, but I chose you, and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit that will last." If we feel afraid that others will reject what we are saying, remember that Jesus went through a much worse rejection, and he did so alone. We have a whole family of support and community around us. Another reason that one may feel held back when sharing their faith is that we might be afraid of having the wrong perspective. The last thing I want to do when talking about my faith is to force someone to listen to me. I want God's presence to be there and to work through me. If the listener feels obligated or even trapped by what I am saying, I feel that it really isn't going to accomplish what I wanted. So this raises a question of how to discuss a topic that can be very delicate. I feel that this is where the song, "They Will Know We Are Christians by Our Love," can be a good example. One of the earliest experiences I have of being affected by someone with this Christianly love is none other than the founder of Veale Community Development, Maddie Christian. Many of you know or are at least familiar with who this woman is. She is our connection to our biggest mission trip here at Glenmar, to the Appalachia of Virginia in a speck of a town called Veale. Since my dad has such a strong personal relationship with the people of Veale, he wanted to introduce his actual family with his Veale family. I was 10 when I was first introduced to Maddie Christian. DC always calls Veale his home away from home. Well, if that is the case, then Maddie was my grandma away from grandma's. Through my 7 years of knowing her, Maddie has helped shape my life. I learned the meaning of compassion, dedication, zest, servanthood, and self-sacrificing love. In my life, she was nothing less than a modern-day saint. I only hope that I can be a fraction of the person that she was. If someone sees me being a good person, morally sound, approachable, all that jazz, and they know I'm Christian, how much more likely are they to go to me if they have questions about my faith? If they see me being an accepting, supportive friend, how much would that affect how they view Christians in general? When our personalities are that open, it will affect our perspective when discussing our faith as well. That is the thing we need to remember. The growth of God's kingdom is mainly through simple one-on-one encounters. It is through a series of discussions that people come to Christ. It is the personal connections that you make that can become catalysts for faith-based conversations. To grow God's kingdom, talking to others about your faith is the most important and influential thing that you can do. One last reason that people may feel held back when sharing their faith is that they simply may not know what to say. Faith is one of the most complex and personal things about someone, which makes it all the more challenging to share with others, but also all the more important. I know in the past I felt uncomfortable in explaining my faith because I really didn't know how to answer the questions asked me. Of course, there will be things that people ask that we will not know the answers to, but the most we can really offer is our experience on faith, our relationship with God, and offer something similar for them. The idea of being this open about faith can still be very uncomfortable, but that's the thing. God calls us to be uncomfortable. He wants you to grow. He wants you to rely on Him and use His grace to reach others who do not know Him. And think about it. Being uncomfortable really only lasts a couple seconds. A conversation is initiated, there's a simple, awkward moment, and then the next step is a heartfelt conversation. Is it worth it for that person to come into God's grace? Are a few awkward moments worth it for someone to have a personal relationship with Jesus? Is it worth it to have their sins forgiven and for them to know salvation? All it takes is a series of conversations. And I find that God really does speak through people when He wants to. This past spring break, the Yom group was down in Slidell for Holy Week. For this, we had a Maundy Thursday service for the group. It was tradition for the youth leaders to speak the message for the service. The other three leaders, along with myself, had planned the main points that each of us was going to cover. Yet, as the time approached, and then as we were eating dinner beforehand, the four of us were getting increasingly nervous about speaking. One of the adults came up and reassured us that it would be successful, that we would do a good job, but we were not easily convinced. Yet he prayed with us, the service started, and before I knew it, we were up on stage taking turns talking about our faith and the importance of Maundy Thursday. But by the end of the message, all four youth leaders were in tears, along with most of the Yom group. The Lord had spoken through each of us in a way that we could have never done ourselves. And he had us say exactly what some people listening needed to hear. Even if you feel that you are not the right type of person to talk about faith or to try and help people better understand their own, remember that God uses everyone. Once you find yourself in a situation where someone is asking about your faith or Christianity in general, it is important to be prepared in the ability to truly help them on their way to Christ. This is when a personal testimony can really impact someone. This is the aha moment that you had in your journey through your faith. Some people have incredible life-changing God experiences, while many others may not have had such an abrupt transformation. A slow and steady relationship with God is still a powerful message. No matter the impact of your personal testimony, it is worth sharing. People who are just discovering their faith want nothing more than to know how others started their journey as well. We have hope that the world does not. We are different because we have a Lord who sacrificed his life for us. People will ask us what makes us different. Why is it so important to believe? John spelled it out for us when he said, "Who is it that overcomes the world? Only the one who believes that Jesus is the Son of God." We are his chosen people. We are the ones to carry on his message. And for that, it is crucial that when people ask about our faith, we can explain to them what sets us apart. This is how the kingdom grows. Through my experience, I find that it is not only the person you are talking to that is transformed through the discussion. I have a dear friend who had chosen to not believe. For years and years, we have gone along with this difference between us. But through all of my talk about mission work, she decided to accompany me on a Yom trip. Going into it, I told her that it was a religious trip, that she would change, that she would see other people grow exponentially in their faith throughout the week. She did not expect for one of those people to be herself. We were on separate crews for the week, but on the last night, she asked if we could talk. We were just reflecting on the week and what a great time she had when I asked her how she was viewing things spiritually. And right away, her face began to glow. She talked of the love she had experienced that week, of how she was reconsidering her views on religion. She began to ask me question after question about my faith and Christian doctrine. She asked me questions on Jesus' teachings and church living. It was through her questions that I was forced to discover how I did view things, what my opinions were on different matters. We are able to avoid those difficult questions when we stay in our own heads. But once someone asks us, it is really beneficial to discover what we believe. As for that friend, I'm happy to say that the Spirit is working in her today and that she has embarked on her faith journey. By being prepared for these tough discussions, we help grow the kingdom of God. Through showing the love that God gave us, through being respectful and gentle in talking about our faith, we can accomplish God's goal to prepare his kingdom. It is through preparation and willingness to share your message of Christ. This is something that is so important, your personal message about your faith. I pray that we are able to truly reflect on how we came into a relationship with God, and how we can express to others the overwhelming love and acceptance that we feel as a result of knowing God through his Son. Amen.